So hi, let me begin right away. Thank you all for joining us at this amazing get-together at the Next Web. I think Boris and Patrick and the guys really outperformed themselves today. And after traveling to more than 20 countries in the last 6 months, I'm happy to welcome you in my hometown and see so many of my tech friends from all over Europe. So actually, before coming here today, I was talking about this talk with my girlfriend, and she said to me, don't try to be too charming, too witty, or too intellectual, just be yourself. So with that said, let's get the show started. I'll be your moderator for this investor panel, and I'm really proud and extremely happy to have here today Reshma, Sohoni, Luciana, Lixandru, and Caroline Brochado.
Thank you.
Give them a big hand, please. So, for the purpose of this talk, it's good to mention that I'm a former startup founder who turned to the dark side about 3 years ago. And next to being a partner at Keadyn, I'm on a mission to empower 1 billion entrepreneurs by 2020. I'm trying to meet key influencers all over the world and discover what the origin stories and the secret sauce is that what makes a city tick and what makes companies great. The theme of this session today is Silicon Valley Beyond, and the goal is to disclose insights about the current state of VC in Europe compared to the rest of the world and to find out the different flavors our panel members have to offer. So Reshma, I'd like to start with you. Welcome. Could you please introduce yourself in 20 seconds?
Sure, I'm co-founder of Seedcamp. We are Europe's first seed fund, so completely pan-European, 250 companies we've invested in across a great number of technology sectors. One of them you might know of is TransferWise, which is probably one of our most well-known.
Congratulations with that, by the way. So Reshma, we met in Helsinki about 2 weeks ago at Arctic 15, and I believe we touched a subject about the abundance of capital in the European market today. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, what we're seeing across the European footprint, particularly, I think, as, Hjalmar was talking about before, in centers of gravity like London and Berlin and Paris and a couple of places, you have a lot of seed money. So I would say today, where I hear a lot in the Valley, people are, VCs are fleeing kind of the seed market, you have an abundance of seed capital in Europe. So it's almost easier to start up and raise your first round. What we're really seeing is it gets a lot kind of tighter in the Series A. So raising 3 to 5 million is very tight, and then there's a lot more capital at the later stages as well. Or if you have a lot of traction.
Yeah, but if you say abundance of capital, and I mean there's a lot of founders in the audience probably today here as well trying to raise it. How do you explain that? I mean, I mean, I know, I don't know a lot of different jurisdictions, and others can comment as well. But I think in the UK, the tax benefits and a lot of the support from policy level onwards that has unleashed the angel market and the small kind of sub 100 million, which is where we are, seed fund market. It's been an incredible explosion. So, and I know again in Paris there have been a lot of very pro-entrepreneur, pro-small fund policies. Yeah. Berlin has a lot of kind of angels who've exited and are reinvesting money. And so, thanks, Reshma. So next up, Luciana Lixandru. 20 seconds for you as well.
Thank you so much for having me here. I am a partner with Accel, the venture capital fund. We are a stage agnostic global VC investing anywhere from 1 million to 50 with a sweet spot between 5 and 25, I would say. I've been investing in technology companies most of my career, both consumer and software. Originally from Romania, studied in the US with Carolina. I'll just mention this because it's a fun fact. We've known each other for 14 years.
You guys go way back, right?
Yes, we met first day of college.
Yeah, wow. we lived on the same floor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now on the same stage, but
I
now
won't
as competitors.
share any more stories about that.
How does it work now? I mean, you're competing, right?
We're trying to make the ecosystem greater.
Okay.
Exactly, we're friendly competitors.
So Luciana, I mean, I think you're actually the youngest partner at Accel, at your firm at the moment, together with Mir. And you're also a board member at some pretty fast-growing companies like Wallapop from Barcelona, which had a pretty nice exit, and of course Deliveroo. Deliveroo from London, Wallapop Barcelona. Do you see any difference in entrepreneurship and culture in those cities?
It's an interesting question. I think what I like about working in Europe now is that I see more and more talent and more maturing ecosystems throughout. Yeah. And I think Spain is a good example because 5 years ago we didn't have any investments in Spain. Yeah. Now we have 4 or 5. So I think that realistically you can find ambitious entrepreneurs that want to build a large global company anywhere, whether it's Spain or the UK or frankly Romania, where we just made an investment together with Reshma. Okay. So I think talent comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't see a big difference in entrepreneurial culture or talent between countries.
I'd like to tap on that later in a bit as well. So Caroline, I mean, 20 seconds for you as well.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for having me as well. I'm Carolina. I'm a partner at Atomico. Atomico was founded by Lixandru, who's one of the co-founders of Skype. And we're really focused on helping entrepreneurs scale. For that reason, we also have a bench of operators who have domain expertise in different things like talent and scaling, et cetera, who can help our entrepreneurs. We're also sector agnostic. We like to invest at Series A and Series B. Our sweet spot's also 5 to 25. A little bit more about me. I'm Brazilian originally, lived in the US for a long time, and I've been in Europe for about 4 years.
So you sit at the board of multiple companies. So what's your favorite?
There is no favorite child.
Okay, well, that's a political answer. I mean, Atomico has been around for ages, right? You're basically, well, if I want to put it polite, but you're basically a dinosaur in VC. How do you keep it fresh?
No.
Why do you say that? We just celebrated 10 years, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It's 10
which our
years.
VC fund is quite young, but I think that is also a reflection of the European ecosystem.
Yeah.
As Reshma said, I think there's been a growth in seed funding. There's been a lot of success has generated success. 2016 marked a record year in terms of both investment in Europe, also the creation of multiple seed funds that have at the helm former entrepreneurs. I think Atomico was maybe at the beginning of that wave because Skype was, the largest exit ever at the time for Europe. I think the way we keep it fresh is we constantly try to inject more capital into the ecosystem, which we view as one of the issues, and then also talent and expertise. So people who come from companies like Uber, Facebook, Google, et cetera, at the time when those companies really scaled exponentially to help young entrepreneurs.
So before you actually joined the VC space, you were in private equity?
I was, that's right.
Yeah.
So before I joined VC, I was in private equity in the US. I did a lot of work in financial services and also in business service and tech. And basically ran M&A for a lot of those teams. And you see that these massive incumbents sometimes have beautiful business models, large moats, a lot of cash, but very little innovation. And thinking about them looking for innovation, thinking about where the puck was going as an investor, it was clear that it was technology.
Yeah. So I actually like to dive in a bit to our main subject. So unicorns used to come from the Valley. These days they're clearly coming from Europe as well. I think it's a clear sign that the tech and VC space is definitely evolving. So panel, what's your take on this? What do you see happening right now here?
I mean, I think so we started nearly about 10 years ago as well. I think one of the big changes is certainly the founders themselves. We see a lot more founders really going for it in terms of extremely ambitious ideas and visions and the ability to also execute. So I think talent has the talent pool has increased in quantity and quality in terms of really scaling up businesses. So I'm thrilled when I hear founders of new companies saying they used to be at TransferWise before or other of our companies before. So that means they're really getting that scaling experience, operational experience. So the founder ambition, talent to go with it. And I think funding is as well, which UiPath recently. So we funded them at the seed stage with it's a Romanian founder with a Czech VC and us, and then the next round came from Early Bird, which is German VC, and now Accel, which is a London VC, and so I think a lot of the venture community is trying to really build big businesses now and fund them together versus, it used to be much more, here's a German champion or a Spanish champion or a French champion or English champion. Now it's really a lot more about coming together, putting really sizable capital into these businesses and, and pushing them towards their ambitions and the growth. So to me, it's been that kind of a lot of different pieces that really come together to build these. So
Luciana, what's your take on this? What do you find the most interesting city or country currently that you're looking at?
Country?
Country or city? What?
I'll just touch upon something that Reshma mentioned, and then I'll move on to that. I think there are a few stages of a maturing ecosystem, and the first one and the base of any hopefully successful ecosystem in the future is having a pool of talent. And then the second one is having the capital, or the seed capital actually, the very early stage capital to support this talent and support these entrepreneurs. And then bigger VCs will start paying attention, more capital will come in, and then hopefully success breeds success. Yeah. And you have these companies that are doing well, and entrepreneurs around them will say, well, if they're able to do it out of Hungary, or if they're able to do it out of Spain, well, I should be able to do it as well, right? And people start thinking big.
Do you think we have enough angel investors that are educated enough and paying back to the European community? Like, I mean, with the PayPal mafia, that basically kickstarted the entire thing in the Valley?
I'm not sure how to answer that question, to be candid. I think there is plenty of seed capital, and actually high quality seed capital. And as I said, I think you see that more and more in emerging ecosystems as well. I'm not as familiar with the angel network in some of these countries. Mm-hmm. But going back to my initial point, what I want to say is, you can look at an ecosystem like France. You have really good engineering schools, you have Polytechnique and many others, and even business schools. Again, 7, 8 years ago, the ecosystem was really immature. Ever since, you've had big outcomes. I mean, Criteo is the obvious early one, but since then, you have companies like BlaBlaCar and Showroom Privé, which is an IPO, and so on and so forth. So I think France is actually a very good example of these stages of the evolution of an ecosystem. And now for us, for example, it's probably one of the most prolific countries in terms of creating interesting businesses. We have a bunch there, like Doctolib, Algolia, and many others that are doing quite well.
Can I add something to that?
Go.
Just because when you look at the data, you really see this playing. So when you look at capital invested in Europe by country, UK and Germany used to dominate, right, in 2011, 2012. And starting in 2014-15, the rise of the rest really accelerated. So the growth in anything outside of UK and Germany grew 60% from 14 to 15, and then 30% from 15 to 16, and actually stayed flat in the UK and Germany. And so you can see that those ecosystems are maturing, people are looking outwards, and
exactly.
a lot of what Luciana
I think even in the Netherlands and Amsterdam, where we are based, I think there's 1.1 billion euros in seed capital and upwards available in 2016.
Yes.
So it's kind of crazy if you think about it.
That's significant. Wow.
That's a lot, yeah. So I mean, easy question for you. I mean, what's the secret behind building a billion-dollar company? Because in Europe, if you scale up, it's going to be tough, right? The Netherlands, small market, France, considerable, but still small. How do you scale up? How do you do it? What do you advise your founders?
Okay, so, I really wish there was a secret sauce that I could just share with all my companies and every entrepreneur I meet. I think, first of all, it's very much the package, right? Obviously, you need to be active in an interesting market, or at least be able to expand your market and be really product driven and create an awesome product market fit and so on and so forth. But really, without, with the danger of sounding like a cliche, I think all of that goes back to the team. Because if you have a strong team, there are always going to be ups and downs, but they'll figure it out, they'll fight, they'll be relentless, and they'll get it there. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a billion-dollar outcome, but success comes in different shapes and forms.
I mean, just on that, so we've dissected this quite a lot, because obviously we come in when it's 2 or 4 people really kind of just ready to put a product out to market and getting that first traction. And I would say those early years or a year or two are absolutely critical in in your growth trajectory, right? If you don't have early growth, you almost have to restart 2 years later or 3 years later in terms of what your curve looks like. So getting to 1 million users or 1 million in revenue as fast as you can is crucial to seeing your company really on the right trajectory to be a billion.
How do you select those teams? I mean, you're stepping really early in the game. So what's the key character trait you're looking for in the founding team? I
mean, I think, I'll say, well, the characteristics are, I think, what Luciana mentioned, so I won't belabor those, but I think it's also the markets is, in fintech, actually, it is quite easy to get to some of those, numbers in that it's a market ready. It's always monetizable. So one of the things about our fintech businesses is they're monetizing from day one. Generally.
But if we talk about the team, so just give me the most important character trait.
It's the vision to see the things that you don't know don't know.
Caroline, would you agree?
Difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for us, and we've tried to study this as well to try to get to the answer. And really, I think it's about authenticity and hustle. And so, and the founders are really authentic. They're really trying to solve a problem.
What do you mean with authentic? How can they get it across to you if they want to go
Some
and
people are
invest
like, I want to start a company, and then they find a problem. And you find that really the best businesses, the founders live and breathe this thing. They end up being very mission-driven, which then attracts very strong people who are very mission-driven. And it just creates this network that's really, really powerful.
I hear what you're saying, but a couple of years ago we had an exit of Nesbitt to Rocket Internet, and I don't think they have the same vision like you have. I mean, they have the complete opposite role, right? I mean, they're actually building, they're investing, then they sort of like fire the entire team, keep the CEO, and then start rebuilding the model. Luciana, how do you see that? I mean, what do you normally do when you invest in your stage?
May I just follow up on what Carolina said? And sorry, I'll get to that. But actually, this is a point that I think about a lot, and I want to share it with entrepreneurs because it's so basic, but I think it's at the core of every success story, which is being relentless. I mean, I look at so many entrepreneurs, even the most successful ones, it's never like this, right? It's like this. And then hopefully you get to the end. But if you don't have this drive and this ability to not take no for an answer, and you know, when someone shuts a door, to find a window, find a crack in the wall, I don't know, find something and continue.
So to make this hyper practical, so if you step out of this room today, how does the founder approach you? What's the right approach?
How should they approach me? I'm actually very responsive to email, ll@Accel. I try to go through all my emails. Maybe it's going to take me a few days, but that's a good way. Or LinkedIn. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think being approached as a VC is so difficult lately. Yeah. At least I don't think that's.
And
an
also,
issue.
what I always recommend to entrepreneurs too is to go through a warm intro. Yeah. So if you're close to angels in your ecosystem that might know someone at the VC firms, use that channel. Because then we view that as a qualified lead, and so we're more likely to get to it faster and get to it with a little bit more credibility as well, which is unfortunate. But if you look at our inboxes, they're very, very full. So if it's a warm intro, it's just probably going to be a lot more effective.
Got that. I mean, Caroline, I was actually tracking your Twitter profile the other day, and I saw an interesting tweet posted by someone on a keynote you gave in April. I mean, it was a hot or not chart, and Brexit was listed as not.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What would you say is the impact on tech and the entire ecosystem for Brexit? I mean,
yeah, so that was a hot or not page, and of course Brexit was not. I have no idea what the impact of Brexit is, right? But what we think is it's going to make a few things harder. Obviously, talent, that could potentially, which as Luciana mentioned, is the foundation of everything, could make it a lot tougher. For companies who use passporting, particularly in fintech across Europe, I think that will pose a challenge, although to be honest, some of the fintech hustlers are already finding ways around that. And then the ultimate is there could be some sort of macro overhang to the economy that obviously won't be helpful. So my view on Brexit is it won't help. It's not going to accelerate anything. But to Luciana's point, when someone has that restlessness and someone's a fighter, they're going to fight through it.
Reshma, you're also based in London?
Yeah, I mean, look, I just don't think we can be quite rosy about all of this. I think, we're seeing some of the first salvos being fired over in terms of the war going on, potentially, between EU and UK, kind of the politics and the rhetoric. I think, my hope is the rhetoric calms down and gets a little more practical and pragmatic, because we have incredible momentum the last 5 years across the European footprint, including the UK. And I think, now's not the time to let politics get into the way, and we just, we need to be pragmatic about how all these topics and issues are going to work. But I'm extremely concerned about the rhetoric that's going on. It's damaging.
Do you think entrepreneurs actually care what's happening, or
I think you have to care. I think a lot is not in the public sphere, and I think you need to be talking and sharing and understanding, because all of the effects of it won't happen right away. They'll happen maybe a year or 2 or 3 down the road, but they're starting now. And so I think you do have to be aware, because they will impact you.
So I believe Germany has profited a lot from Brexit. I think there's about 15 billion pounds actually that actually came to the German market. Would you say that's also something that you're actively looking at right now? Is Germany one of the markets that you see coming more and more still? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And our view being very pan-European and the Eurovision of pan-European, we'll go wherever the kind of bleeding edge of entrepreneurship is. And to the extent of, I mean, our team is based in London, but we're happy to move to Amsterdam or Berlin or Paris or wherever it is. So, I mean, entrepreneurship won't stop, and I think the early investors, like us, have to be where the kind of cutting edge is. So,
Luciana, where are you mostly right now?
Where am I? Where
are you mostly at right now? What cities are you looking at? Which countries?
I mean, I'm absolutely in Reshma's camp. Our ethos and the reason why we go into the office every day or travel every day is because we want to find the most talented and ambitious entrepreneur everywhere in Europe and Israel. And obviously my colleagues in the US and my colleagues in India. So it's really not about the country, it's about the team, it's about the opportunity. Now this being said, of course, Germany is absolutely a key market for us. We've done a few investments there in the last few years and we've been active there for a long time. So we'll continue spending time there, but we'll also continue spending time throughout Europe. Yeah.
So round it all, because we have limited time. So what are your recommendations to the founders in the audience today that are thinking, oh, Brexit, abundance of capital, it sounds fine, but how can I get you to write me a check? Caroline.
I think it
goes the fun question.
Yeah. I think it ties back to everything we've said, which is, build a long-term, really sustainable business, do something really unique, differentiated, attract the best people, go global from day one. All these things that make businesses that we like to invest in really powerful. Yeah. So think about, don't think about an early exit. Think about building this thing to change the world, right? Yeah. And be really, really mission driven. And again, it doesn't really matter where you are. I mean, I think most of the money's still in London, right? By the way. We're all, we're focused on Europe. We're focused on making great global players, and it can come from anywhere.
Got that, Luciana?
How can someone convince me?
Well, maybe your best takeaway for your founders in the audience are thinking, well, how can I get you to write me a check?
I really wish I had a concise answer for this, but I don't. I think the reality is it's so much about the full picture and so much about the package. And frankly, at the end of the day, so much about the connection that you have with the entrepreneur and how you see the world and whether you see the world in a similar way. I'll go into a meeting and meet an entrepreneur for the first time and you just walk out thinking, wow, I'm really excited. I want to be part of this journey. I think they're building something really interesting. Yeah. So it's a little bit vague, but sadly, it's not just about checking certain boxes.
We'll ask you later at the drinks, and then maybe you can explain some more.
I think, I'll kind of last thought is international. You have to go global. Like I think there's not a single company in our portfolio of 250 that has been extremely successful and hasn't gone global. So.
I think it's an awesome way to conclude this panel. It's a runner-up to hopefully some more spectacular keynotes and some excellent networking and dinner and drinks later. I think the party will go on long after the conference ends. So I'd like to say thanks for all of you viewers. Can I get a big hand for our panel members?